So the first example of the first scene I'm going to look at here is when Forrest is first attacked by the bullies and he learns to run when his leg braces fall off. So first, you see Forrest and Jenny, they're walking home, and then a rock hits Forrest on the back of the head, and we hear this kid's bike fall over. This was probably, I believe, it was done with gently knocking a rock against like a somewhat hard surface, and the sound of like the dirt sliding and the bike falling sounds. I think they did that by like either sliding like a bike or some maybe like a metallic object or something like across like gravel or something, and to make like that sound of it like sliding to a stop. I think the kid maybe the kid one of the kids is braking his bike and stopping, and like the bike falling over. I think they either did that with a actual bike or they may have used a like a shopping cart or a metallic basket or something, and they dropped that to get those squeaking and the metal noises. But then after the bullies come out, then another one throws another one, and this one hits Forrest dead on in the face. And it kind of makes a more like slightly more comedic sound effect as this one knocks him to the ground. You know, kind of have like that classic like hit and he falls back. To me, it kind of sounds like this one they may have taken like a hard object or maybe like a punch and like with like a baseball mitt and they punched it together like that because kind of has like a slightly muffled sound to it compared to the last one. And when Forrest falls to the ground, it does like that, you know, classic falling sound of him just pff, on the ground, but it has like a hint of metallic sound to it as he has the braces on his leg and they hit the ground too. So they might have mixed a recording of them like dropping a small pile of items on the ground with a slight mix of the item of like metallic objects hitting the ground too. So then as Forrest tries to run away, you can kind of hear like the clanking of his metal braces as he struggles to run. I think they may have done this by like moving some kind of metal or mechanical item to like his walking speed, like maybe like a I don't know, like those old maybe Transformer robots or something like that. Those old little toys they had, and like moving it along with him running and like clanking and all that, and mixing it in with like the running sound effect. You know, they do with like the shoes or the horse hooves as on the dirt. You know how the Foley artists do it, how we've seen them do that before. So the bullies then grab their bikes and they make that makes a lot of metallic clanging noises, and like I said earlier, it kind of reminds me of a shopping cart like moving or falling, and that's what I kind of think they used to make this sound like. They might have used like a lot of like shopping cart sounds like for the movements of the bikes because the bikes are like old and they're a little rusty and metallic because you know it's the 1950s and they probably got like hand me downs or something, and they kind of show that a little bit there. And then it cuts back and forth between Forrest's legs as he tries to run away, the bullies pedaling on their bikes to come get him. And Forrest's footsteps get faster. You can hear the bike's sounds a lot more clearly, with a mix of squeaking and clanging of the pedals moving quickly of their old rusty bikes. And the movie then slows down like a lot. Like it has like that slow down moment I was talking about earlier, like it to like show to like give them this really big like powerful moment. And we hear like the distinct sound of Forrest's braces starting to squeak from the pressure, I guess, of him like running fast and like harder than he has before. The loud clanging of the bikes, Jenny calling for Forrest to run away, and you hear a Forrest labored breathing as he's like pushing himself to get away, or kind of that he's scared. And then with Forrest braces, I think that they mix the sounds of running with maybe an old like metallic crank and captured the squeaks and sounds it made while it turned to make the sound of him running with the braces on. They also gave like a small echo to Jenny's voice, probably for like the weight of the moment, like you know the old slow like echo of like the call. You know, so I think they slowed it down, added some reverb of like a large room to make her voice sound this way. Then the rattling the bikes again, I think was like a shopping cart. Maybe they rolled it down like a bumpy road to give like the sharp metallic crashing sounds they make and all that. And then with Forrest running, you know, the echoed breathing, but they probably did like this with how they did with Jenny's voice because it's slowed down, it's got the echo kind of like and it's turned up a bit so you can kind of like hear his like fear or how he's like trying to get away. But it's also mixed with some metallic creaking of his braces as he's running away, which I think they might have used from when he was first running away. And then we kind of get like a close up of the bully as he pedals, it's right next to his to the pedals as he's going. we hear like the drone of the bike riding. Like you guys, if you've ever ridden your bike, you hear like this kind of like drone of like the wheel going and going, and like the pedals pushing, and some of the squeaking of the old parts as it's once again an old bike. So I think they made of like actually kind of use like the sound of like a water faucet running, maybe from like a different room, but like you could hear it for like the bike drone. Like it kind of sounds like that, like hear like when you hear like a faucet from like a separate room. And for the squeaks, I feel like they kind of actually got like an old wheel, like an old like uh jointed part, and kind of like moved it around to match the squeaking of the bike part, because it kind of sounds like an old bike, like an old metallic part moving instead of like a bike. And then when Forrest's legs start to fall apart, this is in slow motion with a dramatic event. Like you see like each piece falling off, and you see Forrest looking down to see what's going on. And I think they made this by like mixing the sounds of them like maybe like hitting a metal bar or bat against like a metal table or something, like for the clashing of each like metal plate or something falling off. And maybe they mixed in like them dropping like a large pile of nails or screws or like small little metal pieces like that to make like the sounds of like the pieces like falling off, and like each part breaking off and falling on the ground. And then when Forrest is free from his braces, like his footsteps slowly speed up, and the music suddenly like ramps up a lot, like this big like powerful moment, and the bullies like soon give up because of how he just suddenly takes off, which I think that was done by either recording the footsteps are going faster and speeding up the original sounds. So the next scene I'm looking at is when Forrest and his late Lieutenant Dan are out on their shrimp boat, but then Hurricane Carmen strikes while they are out at sea. It starts suddenly in the middle of the storm. Like we hear the thundering wave crash into the ship, and this kind of like loud moan from the boat. And I think for the wave, it sounds more like a thunder crash or an explosion, more of a wave. That might have been thunderclap, actually. I'm not positive. But I think they mixed the sound of either like maybe an explosion or a crashing wave with like with like water sound effects to create a powerful wave for this devastating hurricane. And for the moan of the ship, I think they may have recorded an old heavy door, like I don't know if you've been to some of the buildings around campus. Like I think Silver, where I live, is the doors are like these really loud creaking noises. So maybe they recorded something like that to get like the groan for the ship. And then when the next massive wave hit, it has more of like a spraying water sound, and like with more waves crashing. So I think they may have taken the stock sound of like spraying water, or once again a wave splashing, and like a wave splashing an area, or recorded like dumped a pile of beads or something on a hard metal surface, and with the explosion or crash from before, to really make this like water like hitting the ship sound effect, and like it splashing through the air. A loud wind is bellowing throughout the entire scene in like a booming tone. And I think they actually kind of may have like recorded like an area when it was under a hurricane. Like maybe they went down to like, the South Coast or something, and maybe stuck a mic out the window or something when a hurricane passed through the area. Or maybe they did some old techniques from Disney or Looney Tunes, like where they use like instrument parts like bass drums or tubas and stuff to make like these cymbals, or to make these storm sound effects. The sounds do sort of die down a bit when Forrest begins narrating again, and you can hear Lieutenant Dan shouting. But you can hear like the individual variations of the wind and ship groans. Like I think they kind of used some of the sounds that they did earlier, but like did like variations on them to make them sound different for each one. Except for one. The one sounds really like it has like a splash sound effect, like someone jumped into water. So like maybe they could have done that. Like they recorded someone splashing, jumping in the water, like splashing, and mixed it in with all the noise. Maybe they threw something in to make that. And it's a lot of noises like that. It's just like a big mesh of those that creates like this big heavy storm, which I guess makes sense with how, like when you watch the scene, you see how the storm is just ramming against this boat with all the water and the waves. So it kind of matches with what happens there. So that's basically my report here. So I look forward to seeing all your responses to what you guys thought, and look at any questions you have. I'll try and answer them the best as I can. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.